What's good, everybody? This your boy D Money, and we on another episode of the A Lot of Fashion podcast. So, what we primarily like to talk about on the podcast is everything business, whether it be business development or the business industry. But what we're primarily talking about this season is building a product from nothing and the steps thereafter. So, what we're primarily going to talk about on this episode is why nobody cares about your brand. Now, first and foremost, attention is earned. It is not owed. Market, markets are, crowded. Doesn't matter what niche you get in or what type of industry, you're tapping into. They're crowded because you got to think about it from this way. There's probably over 12 billion people on this planet. There's definitely about 7 billion that actually are tapped in to every type of market. Well, not, individuals are all tapped in every market, but, there's individuals in every market. So you got to think about every market being crowded, being with millions of people, thousands of people. And people are not going to see everything that you post. Even the best artists like Drake or, Adele or, just even Taylor Swift, their music at best, only 30% of it actually is successful and is actually probably seen by the public. They've got unreleased or released music that hasn't even really seen the same accolades or recognition that, other releases, you know, have seen and people have, supported. But at the same time, everybody still considers them successful. So the whole thing about it is making sure that you are consistent, not only with your product and marketing it and promoting it, but also staying consistent with the content and the quality of, the development and the content that you put out is premium. People don't trust new brands. They haven't given them a reason, or you haven't given them a reason to care. This is all going from the standpoint of earning the attention, giving the public something that they need. You need to be able to solve problems with the products and services that you provide. Number one, you're not known. Visibility creates value. So you got to put yourself out there. Doesn't matter whether you do guerrilla marketing, doesn't matter if you on social media, doesn't matter how, whether you get in billboards, ads on the side of buses, cars, taxis, whatever. Visibility creates that value. You got to put yourself out there in a way that people can see you, what is profitable for you, and it's all predicated on how your brand is. So the best way to learn these things is Google search. You also can go on Instagram, look at the top businesses in your industry, see how they're marketing, and it's okay to take some of the methods, but at the same time, just don't call them your own. The next thing is the unknown and difficulty, to understand can kill brands. So the main thing is that when you're storytelling or you're trying to relate to your target audience, you make sure that your product is on point. You make sure that your content is easy to, receive from the public, and for the public, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, they're not on the same level that you're on, or you may not be on the same level that, your customers want. So the thing is that you got to understand that whole concept from the beginning. And once you start to put out content and once you start to create your storyline for a relatable story for your customer, you got to remember that each step has to be simplistic. Not everything in it, but the story and the message overall has to be simplistic enough for people to understand so that way they can see that they actually relate and then start to engage. The next point is content is the bridge. Show your face. I mean, A lot of brands out there now are going, animated or, pretty much, all audio and not really showing, the, I guess you could say, face of the brand, face. But at the same time, if you want to have a successful brand in certain industries, like fashion and things of that sort, or even if you're coming straight from the mud like us, you got to show your face because people relate more with, a friendly face and also somebody that is actually doing the work. Now, it doesn't mean you got to be doing all the work, but the people want to see what you are doing. People want to see the process. They want to see your mindset. These things are, important because it helps the customer to relate to everything that you're developing, everything that, you're putting out there, whether it be that service or that product. The next thing is repetition builds recognition. See, one post won't change a thing. I said this in the last episode as well too. The whole thing about it is that everybody tries to be cool. Now, if that post gets, 100,000 views, you think you should stop posting that junk? That shows you like, hey, let's keep posting that junk so we can get to 1 million. A lot of people don't have the drive and the will once they, see success. They see, a little bit of success, or they might see, 1,000 likes and be like, oh yeah, I came up. No, that's just the start. That's just, evidence that something was working. So if it's not, working on that post, that just shows you need to go back to the lab, work on its weaknesses, see where you did wrong, and improve for the next post. Consistency builds from formality. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be consistent with your work ethic. You gotta be consistent with posting your content. At least being able to post 3 times a day is pivotal for everything that you're doing. I do it, 3, 4, 5 times a day. I've even seen other business professionals posting 6 to 7 times a day just to get, 3x, I guess you could say, visibility on their content and their product or services. So these are just things that you have to remember. Attention is not earned, it's owned. The markets that you're in are always going to be crowded. So don't let that discourage how you create, how you put out your content. Just make sure that when you put out your content, that it is premium. People don't trust new brands. So that means that you're going to have to put in double the work, double the effort, and double the time, just so that way people can see what you have to offer. You got to put yourself out there in pop-up events, trade shows, things of that sort as well outside of social media. So that way you can build traction. So that way you can start to gain customer information. So that way you can see who your target audience is. So you can also, set up email campaigns, set up different things from a marketing standpoint. So that way you can reach your target audience. So the next episode, we'll be talking about building a brand people can relate to. Make sure you stay tuned. Keep visualizing your purpose. I'm out.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of A Lot of Fashion. We appreciate you guys for liking and subscribing and also staying tuned through the whole episode. Make sure that you take these business gems and start visualizing your purpose. I am out.